Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Let's start with that election result last month. Does it mark the beginning of the end of Malaysia's ruling party?
Not necessarily, unless no action is taken. Of course, it may result in that. But if proper action is taken, including, of course, the present Prime Minister leaving his seat of power, it may be possible to bring back the Barisan National Front in order to become again a very strong ruling party.
You're saying that Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi has to be kicked out for the ruling party to recover?
Well, not so strong as that. He can step down. I stepped down in my time. It's about time that he steps down, because the result of the election shows clearly that many of the former followers, supporters of the National Front had decided that they would vote for the opposition, even if they didn't like the opposition. They voted for the opposition to send a message to the present government.
See, Prime Minister Abdullah says that you have been one of the curses that have brought him down, because you've been sniping from the sidelines for the last 2 or 3 years.
That may be so. I don't see why I should not criticize wrongdoings by him.
What wrongdoings?
Well, in the first place, the government promises to remove corruption and things like that, but the government is found to be corrupt.
You are tearing your own party apart, though. That is the problem, and that's what many people inside your party believe.
Yeah, sometimes it may be necessary. I told people I'm a doctor. If I find one leg becoming gangrenous, I remove it.
Now, he has said, Prime Minister Abdullah, that he will go eventually, but is your message to him that he has no time? He must go now?
He must go now, because it will take time to revive the party for the next election.
Isn't the truth of what we see in Malaysia today that the real discontent isn't so much with Prime Minister Abdullah, it is with the system and the ideology that you bequeathed to your country?
Well, the system and the ideology had been there for the last 50 years. It's worked very well. We had always won elections. People always supported us. And the country has done very well during that 50 years with that system.
But the indications are, and the opposition succeeded by saying to the public, we no longer want this racially defined system inside Malaysia. And it was the racial definition that was the platform upon which you succeeded in running Malaysia for 22 years.
I think that's wishful thinking on the part of foreign critics. But the fact is that this election result was due to disaffection on the part of the ruling party's supporters with the present leadership.
Well, let me just quote to you the words of the new head of Penang State. And let's not forget, these results saw 5 very big and wealthy states go to the opposition. The new head of Penang State, Mr. Lim Guan Eng, he says, we want a state administration that is free from corruption and cronyism. We are here to build a Penang State for all. You didn't build a Malaysia for all, did you?
I did. If you look at Malaysia today, everybody is has enjoyed a very good life there. They have become very prosperous. Malaysia was one of the fastest growing countries in the world. And if you look at the different races, you can find that they all benefited from that government. So it is, of course, necessary for opposition parties to make remarks like that.
Well, they're not making it up, are they? Let's look at your new economic policy, which you pursued for so long. It favours ethnic Malays in so many different ways, from public sector appointments to university places to advantageous acquisition of stocks, discounts on housing. I don't know where to stop. There are so many different ways in which you ran an unequal system.
No, this was a policy which was initiated by my predecessors. It was necessary to...
You ran it for 22 years. You had ample opportunity to change it.
Yes, I had ample opportunity to implement in a way that will correct imbalances that existed in Malaysia since the British days. And unless these imbalances are corrected, there's bound to be another racial riot as happened in 1969.
But the point is, 80,000 Indians, for example, were on the streets protesting long and loud last November because they are no longer prepared to live with the racial division that you set in the stone.
Why now? Why not during my time? They were quite free to demonstrate. Many of the people who disagreed with me demonstrated.
Many of the people who disagreed with you, I'm afraid, ended up in prison.
Who?
Hundreds of them.
Hundreds
Read every
of them.
Amnesty International
That
Human
is the
Rights Watch
problem
report for
with
the years in which you were in power.
Western press. The problem is that you make up these stories and then you take it as the truth. It's not the truth. Tell me, who are the hundreds of people who ended up in prison?
I'll discuss human rights a little bit later. I just want, before we get distracted from this question of racism in Malaysia, I just want to put to you this final point. Anwar Ibrahim says that he is going to push, and of course he, your longtime friend who became your political enemy, he is going to push for a colorblind Malaysia where affirmative action is open to all who need help.
Well, there's opportunism for him. Now that he's out of the government, he was in the government for a long time, he never made any complaint, he never did anything to...
well, he certainly made a complaint when you locked him up.
Well, that was not the reason why he was locked up. He was accused of sodomy, he was accused of abuse of power, he was tried in court 9 months, and he was defended by 9 lawyers, and he was found guilty. I didn't throw him into...
Trumped up charges says not just Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, but I've been looking through the record, the Canadian government, the White House, the International Commission of Jurists, all of them expressed grave and deep concern with the way in which your judicial system treated Anwar Ibrahim.
Yes, you're free to say so, but...
well, no, I'm not saying it. I'm just quoting to you all the people who did say it.
What is the record of these countries? These people, these same countries, arrested people without the law and detained them in Guantanamo Bay, and even in Britain here, you arrest people and detain them without any sanction by law.
So does that make it okay that you did it for 22 years?
We did it under the laws of the country, but it is not the way that they seem to...
You used the laws which went back to colonial times, of the Internal Security Act, emergency procedures. You feel satisfied, do you, to tell me that that was entirely legitimate?
No, we find that the situation in the country is very, very fluid, and it is very likely that there will be racial riots unless we prevent such people who are promoting racial hatred from talking about it.
But put it this way, Dr. Mahathir, you've had several years out of power now to consider your record and what you did. I wonder whether you are now ready to say that you regret what you did to Anwar Ibrahim.
Why should I regret? He was arrested under the laws of the country, he was tried in the courts of the country, and he was sentenced by the court. If he was not wrong, I don't think, no matter what you think about our judiciary, I don't think he would have been sentenced to prison.
It damaged your reputation, though, didn't it?
Well, that's something that I have to accept.
You may also find it comes back to haunt you. Anwar Ibrahim, of course, is now leading the opposition coalition. We are led to believe that there are certain MPs in the ruling party who may defect to him, in which case he could very soon be running the government. And he's made it plain that he wants to have you answer for all of the things you did while you were in power.
Well, he's welcome to do that if he becomes the Prime Minister of Malaysia, but if he wins over members of the ruling party to his side, it is the Prime Minister, the present leader, who should be blamed, because he couldn't even get the loyalty of his own members.
It wasn't the current Prime Minister who was in power when Anwar Ibrahim was savagely beaten during his time in detention.
But savagely beaten? I know he was slapped and he had a black eye, which was very useful for election purpose. But
well, you think he hit himself, maybe?
I don't know what happened, but the police, the IGP admitted that he assaulted Anwar, but that wasn't me, the IGP.
How will you respond if Anwar Ibrahim comes to power and he, as he said on this program and elsewhere, that he wants a full and thorough public inquiry into all of your, Dr. Mahathir's misdeeds? How will you respond to that?
Well, he is welcome to do so, but I hope that he finds people who are neutral, who are impartial, probably foreigners, because I don't trust the people that they put after people they don't like.
Interesting you say you don't trust people who are currently or maybe in charge of any inquiry. Do you trust the integrity of the Malaysian judiciary?
I do. At times I do, but
Is that because you appointed the judges?
I didn't appoint the judges. The judges were recommended by the Chief Justice, and my duty is to check whether he has any records or not, and after that it is presented to the king, who will then appoint the judge.
Dr. Mahathir, you know as well as I do that the hottest political topic in Malaysia today is the state of the judiciary, the integrity of the judiciary. And a video has been playing in Malaysia for a long time now, which shows a top lawyer talking to a top judge going back to 2001, in which the lawyer says to the judge, believe me, in the end, all of the positions going all the way to the Supreme Court are fixed by the politicians, i.e. by you, who were the Prime Minister at the time, Dr. Mahathir.
Did he say that? Did he mention my name?
He didn't mention your name. He said, this will be fixed. This goes through the political system.
Well,
you ran the political system.
I'm not so sure about that, but the fact is that this man had his video taken because they were intended to blackmail him. He happens to be my lawyer defending me at this moment for libel against Anwar. And this tape came from Anwar. Anwar had these things recorded in order to blackmail this lawyer.
But the point is, the current government, led by Prime Minister Abdullah, who is nominally, or despite what you've said on this program, is of your party, Prime Minister Abdullah has now essentially apologized. He's said, both to the Supreme Court justice that you removed and to other judges that were suspended or removed during your time in power, he said sorry to them. He said that he wants to offer them monetary compensation.
Fine, but it's a political move. Something, a man who is very unpopular at the moment, wanting to show that he's going to do something right.
And that, Dr. Mahathir, is my point. The Malaysian people no longer want to live with the system you created. That's why Prime Minister Abdullah is essentially dismantling the system that you created.
No, he's not dismantling the system. He is making use of the system in a worse way. There's nobody can say anything against him. He has newspapers which only reports about him and how great he is, and he was misled by his own supporters into believing that if he holds the election now, I mean this is 1.5 years before the end of the term, he would win. He would have a clean sweep. If you look at the records, he made statements that he would win the election with 0 for the opposition.
The more I listen to you talking about Prime Minister Abdullah, the more I wonder, why did you choose him to be your successor?
Well, these people are very smart in hiding their true character. He was known as Mr. Clean, and I thought I would appoint a clean person to succeed me. Although he was not the one with the highest votes in my party. But I thought that he was older, and I appointed him thinking that he is not going to do anything very wrong. But this man gives priority to his family rather than to the country.
So it was a fundamental lack of judgment on your part?
Yes, I'll admit that, but we all make mistakes, you know. The British people voted in people like Blair who told lies. So did the Americans. Lots of people make mistakes.
We all make mistakes, you say. Was it also a mistake for you to define yourself so clearly as anti-Western and anti-democratic in the sense that the West understands democracy.
No, that's the problem. I'm not anti-Western. I'm against the bad things that were done by the Western countries.
You're not anti-Western, and yet in June '03, before you left office, you said Anglo-Saxon Europeans essentially are proponents, and I'm quoting here, proponents of war, sodomy and genocide.
Which is true. You must admit.
But you're not anti-Western.
I'm stating the fact. This is their character, and I will continue to say so.
So when you come here you sit in the Hard Talk studio in the heart of London, you regard yourself, do you, as in one of the headquarters of war, sodomy and genocide?
Well, I come here, of course, expecting to be lambasted by you because that is the way you work.
Well, I'm not lambasting you at all. I'm trying to tease out whether you believe it was a mistake for you to use this sort of language, because you clearly cut yourself off from any sort of meaningful dialogue with the West when you use these words.
The Europeans used to call us the lazy Malays, incompetent Malays, untrustworthy Malays. We couldn't say a thing about you. So when I was in a position to say what we think about you, and I said it, and you don't like it, and when you said it to us, you expect us to like it. We didn't like it, but we had no way of making our voices heard.
I'm just wondering how you feel about democracy. Of course, in the world since 9/11, the United States and a coalition of partners led by the United Kingdom have talked a lot about spreading democracy. Do you believe in democracy?
If you look at the history of the West, they come up with all kinds of ideologies. They use it for some time, and then they found it defective, and they drop it and start on another. One day they are going to forget about democracy, because in some countries, democracy actually ended up with anarchy, and there were practically no governments. It's not a system that can fit everybody. You must have a certain understanding of the limitations of democracy in order to make it work.
Is that why you were not a Democrat, why you in the end did behave like a dictator?
Well, that is something that the West would like to say about me. I'm a dictator.
Well, I'm just quoting your own words from 2002. You said, it's good governance people need. You said, feudal kings, even dictators, have provided and can provide good governance.
That is very true. That is very true.
So why disguise your real feelings? Why not just say to me, yes?
The great civilizations of the past did not have democracies, and yet they became great. It's not necessary that the system will work for everybody. But if we have a bad leader, even the democratic system would fail. You must remember that it is a democratic country which dropped atom bombs, killing 200,000 people.
How do you think the Malaysian public will respond to you saying, look, you know what, democracy isn't the best system, and in fact dictatorship can often work better?
I went through 5 elections, and I won all the elections with a 2/3 majority.
Without a free press, locking up many of your opponents.
That you go again about locking up many of my opponents. Who were they?
I don't know how many times I have to tell you that I've studied the Human Rights Watch reports, the Amnesty International reports, studies from the State Department, from the Canadian government.
These are biased reports. The first thing I did on becoming the Prime Minister in 1981 was to release political prisoners who were detained by my predecessors, 22 of them, including many members of the opposition.
And the 1984 press law, which required newspapers to get a new license every single year, made it very easy, for you to quieten them down, didn't it?
No, it has always been there. The press law has been there because we live in a country.
You know you did.
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. But I don't know where you get your information from. But the fact is that we have a multiracial country. And if we are not careful, there will be racial flare-ups. And you look at most of the countries with a multiracial population, they are never peaceful. Even Northern Ireland, it took you such a long time to stop the war in Northern Ireland.
Talking of peace, you did worry about the stability of your country, didn't you? That's why you were very strong, very tough with Islamist extremism inside Malaysia.
Yes, it is necessary.
Well, I just wonder in that case then, why before, again, just before you left office in October '03, why did you tell the Islamic Summit Conference that, and I'm quoting again a very famous speech, it's a little bit long, but 1.3 billion Muslims cannot be defeated by a few million Jews, you said. We're actually very strong. The Europeans killed 6 million Jews out of 12 million, but today the Jews rule this world by proxy. They get others to fight and die for them. You went on to say, but the Jews have become arrogant, and arrogant people, like angry people, will make mistakes, and there may be a window of opportunity for us.
I'm stating facts. I'm willing to say that again and again that this is what has happened.
Anti-Semitic and racist, that was called by many governments and people around the world.
This idea about anti-Semitism is created by the Jews themselves. We cannot say anything. In fact, journalists have been arrested for saying something against the Holocaust and jailed for 3 years. Where is the freedom of press?
So those words I quoted, in your view, are not anti-Semitic?
No, they are not anti-Semitic. I'm just quoting facts. The fact is that the United States obeys what Israel wants it to do.
You call them facts. Let's leave that aside for a moment. I'm trying to understand your logic. Here you are, a man who says that your own country is potentially destabilized by Islamic extremism, and then you go out in an Islamic conference and you use words which could have been used by Osama bin Laden.
There's no contradiction. No contradiction at all.
Well, forgive me, but I see a major
contradiction. I don't
contradiction.
want Islamic terrorism any more than I want Jewish attacks against Israel or American bombs on Baghdad. It is not incompatible.
Do you feel confident that people still listen to your message?
Well, I wouldn't be able to say.
In Malaysia, people
Why
say...
should people worry about me?
In Malaysia, people say, and I'm talking about the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition, it is time for you to be quiet.
Why should I be quiet? You mean to say when they are doing something that is wrong to my country, and I should not say anything? I would be irresponsible if I were to do that.
Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.